Just to get it out there, the story about Mary and Martha has always frustrated me because I think Martha is awesome and she's always made out to be a busybody and a whiner. See, Jesus is welcomed into the home of Mary and Martha, and the thing to understand is that Jesus didn't exactly travel alone. Dude had an entourage. So to welcome Jesus is to welcome who Jesus brings in with him. And to extend hospitality to that many people takes a lot of work. So Martha becomes understandably overwhelmed by her tasks and tries to get Jesus to talk to her sister Mary and talk her into helping her, since Mary, up until this point, has only been sitting at Jesus' feet listening. Jesus tells Martha that Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her. Now, you all know that I'm not really one to lay on the guilt trip. I never really mastered that technique employed by clergy since time immemorial. So when I tell you that this last spring I was chatting with a group of church leaders about how we would get worship leader jobs covered and scheduled, I'm not saying that I want to shame anyone except perhaps myself, because in the end, I honestly got a little bit snarky and slightly self-righteous and said the following, of which I am not proud. I said, it's like I really want to say to folks who show up every week at 5 after 9:30 a.m., someone has greeted them at the door and handed them a bulletin, and someone has set out Holy Communion for them to receive, and someone has prepared to produce the live stream. And when they leave right after the dismissal, someone will tidy up and help with the refreshment trays and take out the trash, and that maybe it's their turn to be that someone for others. Now, all of this is well and good, and yes, of course, we need people who are willing to serve, who are willing to do the sometimes thankless tasks of making hospitality and community work, since to welcome Jesus is to welcome all who Jesus brings in with him. And yes, I spent some time that month, it was April or May, distracted by how much work it is to keep this community running and how Martha gets a bad rap. And that all felt really satisfying until I went to a parent event at the school that my son goes to, and I always attend the parent events. And I often arrive, like I did for this one, 5 minutes late. And I always attend, and every year when they ask for parent organization volunteers, my eyes glaze over, and I can't bear to think of how long my to-do list would be if I entered that group. So I took a seat on the folding chair at this event and sipped at the light brown coffee in my hand before realizing, oh dang it. Someone had set up all of these chairs, and someone had made the bad coffee, and when I leave right after the last speaker, someone will clean it all up, and in all these years of parenting, that someone has never been me. Wah, wah. So try as I might this week, I could not find a comfortable place to land in this story when I was trying to make it into a moralism about the relative merit of doing or not doing tasks, of action versus contemplation. Because it felt bad to be snarky about people not doing the work, and it felt bad to realize in another situation in my life, I was the one not doing the work. Honestly, there is merit to action and there is merit to contemplation, and I really don't think that was Jesus's point. When Jesus said to her, Martha, you are distracted by many things. Mary has chosen the better part. It will not be taken away. I wonder if he meant not that we are distracted by work itself, but that we are distracted from the better part when we judge the actions or inactions of others through the lens of our own personality. Here's a small example. When I am sitting in the turn lane waiting for a green arrow on 19, I take it upon myself to consider the people behind me and to leave as short a distance as safely possible between me and the car in front, so that as many of my fellows as possible can also get through the turn signal. Inevitably, when someone leisurely leaves 4 car lengths between them and the car turning in front of them, allowing only 2 cars to get through a green arrow instead of 6, I assume that they are not a team player, only out for themselves and either selfish or lazy. Wow, that's a lot of judgment on the personhood of someone else based solely on how they turn on green. But that thing we do where we judge the actions of others based on how we ourselves move around through the world, that is a distraction from the main thing. If the reason you help as a worship leader is because you value this community and are grateful that others have served, that does not mean that those who don't serve do so because they don't value community or because they are ungrateful to others. And the more we live our lives in these kinds of judgments about the actions of others, the more distracted we are from the better part, from the main thing, which will not be taken from us. When we think the main thing is who does what and why, when you think the main thing is whatever you get out of this, or the main thing is that your friends are here, it all is just busyness and distraction, and all of it will eventually be taken away. The main thing, the thing that will not be taken away, and that we, myself included, so easily forget, is our sacred story. It's a simple story, really, even as it is unfathomable in its beauty. So here it is again, since I too often forget. There is a God who created us and all that is. This same God spoke through the prophets and poets, claimed a people to be God's own, and freed them from the shackles of slavery. This same God led those people through the wilderness to a land of milk and honey, and told them to always welcome the stranger and protect the foreigner so that they could remember where they came from and what God had done for them. Then, in the fullness of time, and to draw all people to himself, God came and broke our hearts like only a baby could do, and made God's home in the womb of a fierce young woman, as though God was saying, from now on, this is how I want to be known. And as Jesus, God kissed lepers and befriended prostitutes and baffled authority. Jesus ate with all the wrong people, and on the night before he died, held up bread and told us to do the same thing. And he promised us so much, that he would be with us, that forgiveness is real, that we are God's, that people matter, and that grilled fish makes an awesome breakfast. And from the tree on which Jesus hung, he pronounced judgment on us all. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they are doing. We never do, really. We never seem to know what we are doing. And sometimes we think the Bible is going to solve that for us. That a story like Jesus' visit with Martha and Mary is going to give us a clear moral lesson so we can know what we are doing. And then we think we've got it down, and then we begin to judge the actions of others. And the moment we do this, we've once again lost the plot. So maybe choosing the better part isn't about choosing between action and contemplation. Maybe it isn't about working or sitting at Jesus' feet, since the Christian life has always been a combination of the two. Maybe choosing the better part is not judging the actions of others through the lens of your own personality. Because when we do so, it's a distraction from the main thing. And this story around which we gather, this main thing, can never be taken away because it is always forming who you are, and like water on rock, is slowly, sometimes imperceptibly shaping us into the glory of God. That's why we come here. It's not to see our friends or to take advantage of Miss Connie's free treats. It's to remember our story. And the story of God and God's people will stand. And unlike so much else in life, it will not be taken away. Thanks be to God.